The Scum Villain Self-Saving System. Extra Chapter. The Ultimate Showdown between Bing-Mei and Bing-Gur, Part 1. Without a doubt, the first stop after leaving Xiāng Mountain, under the belligerence of everyone, was Luo Binghei's demonic stronghold in the southern border. Earlier, when Shen Qianqiu was placed under house arrest, he had spent some time in this underground palace. At that time, the land outside the remodeled bamboo house was plowed and fertilized. The bamboos of varying height planted on that land had wilted and sprouted then wilted. Now, he was back to revisit this former haunt. The bamboos were now surprisingly thriving through some unknown means that Luo Binghei's conscientious demonic minions had used, creating a shade of green that rustled in the wind. As expected, Luo Binghei had clung to him for the first 10 days after their arrival. He would not budge no matter how Shen Qianqiu tried to pull him off. In recent days, he actually started to exercise restraint and suddenly turned all polite and courteous, saying that the civil conflicts between Beizhong and Nanzhong had been incessant and he had a lot of pressing business to attend to. Thus, he no longer had as much time to loiter around Shen Qianqiu. This was not true, of course. Shen Qianqiu was sure it was because he had declined Luo Binghei's request to share the same bed, thereby breaking Maiden Luo's heart glass again. Fine, he had only turned him down out of habit. If Luo Binghei had pestered him just a little more, he would have agreed. Who knew that as soon as he waved his hand, Luo Binghei had rushed out of the door to emote at a corner and grow mushrooms. Shen Qianqiu guessed that Luo Binghei had gone into hiding at the inner palace these days, so he decided to take the initiative to pacify the latter. Other than Luo Binghei, everyone else was barred from the inner palace, everyone else except Shen Qianqiu, of course. Luo Binghei had once said that Shen Qianqiu had full access to this palace. He could come as go as he pleased. With the command issued and passed down, there was nobody who had the guts to get into Shen Qianqiu's way. Shen Qianqiu slipped in with a swagger. To his surprise, there was no sight of Luo Binghei, so he took a thorough look at Luo Binghei's private rooms, which had always been shrouded in secrecy. Just as he was going to examine everything thoroughly and touch to his heart's content, the stone door was flung wide open and a figure stumbled in. Trepidation initially flashed through Shen Qianqiu's eyes, but after seeing who had arrived, he involuntarily cried out, "Luo Binghei!" It was as if Luo Binghei did not expect another person to be in this inner room. His dazed pupils abruptly shrank, reflecting Shen Qianqiu's face in those pitch-black eyes. In an instant, the murderous look on his face transformed into extreme astonishment. Shen Qianqiu did not notice the changes in his face. All he could see at the moment was the fresh blood all over Luo Binghei. Luo Binghei took a few steps forward but went weak in the knees. Shen Qianqiu went up to him just in time to catch a tumbling Luo Binghei in his arms, spontaneously putting his arms around that black-soaked back. He asked, "What happened? Who did this to you?" Who would have thought Luo Binghei would be walloped to this extent in his own territory? All right, this could not really be counted as a bug. Even the stallion novel protagonist was now a homosexual, what else could be qualified as a bug? Luo Binghei's throat throbbed. One word exploded from his mouth through tightly clenched teeth: "Leave. Leave." Was he telling him to flee? Shen Qianqiu hurriedly replied, "All right, let's go." Having said that, he placed his arm around Luo Binghei's waist. Who knew that Luo Binghei would tightly purse his lips and forcefully push him away? It was the first time Shen Qianqiu was pushed away by him. Dumbfounded, he thought, was Luo Binghei telling him to go alone first? Was he afraid of him being implicated? It seemed to be the only explanation. He instantly rebuked him, "Stop that. This master will take you back to Xiāng Mountain." The veins stood out on Luo Binghei's forehead. He said in a harsh voice, "I'm not going." Shen Qianqiu thought he was throwing another tantrum. "Why are you still being difficult at this point? Let's go there to hide first." He placed his palm on Luo Binghei's back. Luo Binghei's face suddenly froze. There was a warm and continuous stream of spiritual energy being propelled into his body in waves from his back. After a moment, when Shen Qingkai felt it should be about right, he withdrew his hand and unsheathed Xiuye. Pulling Luo Binghe up, he soared towards the sky. The origin of Xiuye was Wanjian Peak. Thus, an alarm would not be triggered whenever he used Xiuye to access the inner grounds of Kengkayang Mountain beyond the shield barrier. As a result, Shen Qingkai could sneak a person into Qingjing Peak unnoticed. The only thing was that he could not hide it from his own peak's disciples even if he could keep it from the other peaks. Someone was already inside the bamboo dwelling when he furtively dragged Luo Binghe there. Ming Fan was holding a broom sweeping the floor while babbling incessantly. With her sleeves rolled up, Ning Yingying was standing on tiptoes on a small bamboo stool dusting the top shelf with a duster. The two of them were alarmed when Shen Qingkai kicked the door open and entered. But after taking a closer look, they immediately called out, "She!" Shen Qingkai made a zipping motion over his lips and both of them immediately went quiet. Shen Qingkai whispered, "What are you shouting for? Are you trying to draw those from Baijian Peak here?" Lu Qingge would definitely make his way over if he knew Shen Qingkai was back. Once he came over, it would be impossible to hide Luo Binghe's current state. It should be said that the ones who were the most enthusiastic about ganging up on and picking a fight with Luo Binghe whenever they saw him were those terrorists from Baijian Peak. Luo Binghe had always restrained himself and did not dare to fight back, becoming a live target for them every single time. Even if he was not beaten to death, it was still bothersome. Ning Yingying's almond-shaped eyes widened as she covered her mouth with both hands, continuously nodding her head like a little chick pecking at rice. When she noticed a blood-soaked Luo Binghe, she moved her hands away and gasped, "Shizun, what's happened with Luo?" Luo Binghe swept a glance at Ming Fan, incredulity and loathing flashing in his eyes. That gaze was so frosty and penetrating that Ming Fan could not help but tighten his grip on the broom and shrink back, nearly falling over in the process. Shen Qingkai did not notice these details. He helped Luo Binghe to the edge of the bed and said, "Just a minor injury. Both of you may leave first. Is the medical kit delivered by Qian Peak still in the same place?" Ning Yingying replied, "Everything in here has not been moved. They are all in the same place." "Shizun, do you need our help?" Shen Qingkai said, "No, this master can handle it by himself." After chasing out the two disciples, Shen Qingkai righted Luo Binghe's posture and placed a pillow behind his back. Once Luo Binghe was settled in a comfortable position, he squatted to remove Luo Binghe's boots. Luo Binghe had remained silent through all of this. When Shen Qingkai lowered his head, Luo Binghe fixated his sight on the white nape of Shen Qingkai. His gaze was inscrutable, with wariness and frostiness metamorphosing in between. Shen Qingkai thought Luo Binghe was too weak to speak because of his injuries. Upon seeing his forehead drenched in cold sweat, Shen Qingkai prepared clean water and a piece of soft cloth to wipe his face. He picked up a bunch of bottles from the medical kit given by Mu Qingfeng, then he turned back and reached a hand out to remove Luo Binghe's outfit. Luo Binghe abruptly grabbed his hand. His grip was so strong that Shen Qingkai frowned, but he was unable to use his other hand to smack his forehead. He lowered his voice and said, "Stop being stubborn. I'll take a look at your wounds." Luo Binghe still refused to release his grip. Shen Qingkai was grasping a bunch of multicolored pills in his left palm, and he was already running out of patience by this time. Thus, he simply shoved all of them into Luo Binghe's mouth. Luo Binghe's mouth was jam-packed with dozens of pills of varying sizes. His face darkened and he finally withdrew his hand. Shen Qingkai seized the chance to tear his clothes off. He took a couple of glances at Luo Binghe's body, but he had no clue where to start, so he merely used the piece of soft cloth to dab gingerly at the blood. Wisps of black energy were spilling out from his open wounds. They did not seem to be ordinary wounds. Otherwise, the wounds would have already healed given Luo Binghe's self-healing ability. Shen Qingkai carefully cleaned him up and asked, "Where on earth have you been these days? Who did you fight with to end up in this state? Not once had Luo Binghe uttered a word. Shen Qingkai wiped Luo Binghe's chest clean and grabbed his wrist to take his pulse, just how Mu Qingfang had taught him. If his condition was really bad, then he would ask Mu Qingfang to come over and take a look at him, he would address anything that comes afterwards. While he was taking Luo Binghe's pulse, he took a couple of glances at the back of Luo Binghe's hand and his chest. A strange sense of uneasiness crept over him. He had a vague feeling that something was wrong. It was as if something was missing. However, when he looked at Luo Binghe's pale lips and cheerless eyes, he did not dwell on it and simply sat on the edge of the bed and continued to share his spiritual energy with Luo Binghe. As the spiritual energy slowly flowed through Luo Binghe's veins, Shen Qingkai felt the latter's stiff muscles gradually relax. He quietly heaved a sigh of relief and extended his arms, intending to pull Luo Binghe into a hug. Once again, Luo Binghe broke free. Shen Qingkai, who was pushed away for the second time, cast aside the cloth in his right hand and asked helplessly, "What's the matter with you again?" Luo Binghe's eyes were full of wariness and guardedness. Shen Qingkai rolled his eyes in his mind and censured him. "At this point in time, why are you still throwing a tantrum? Is it worth being angry for so long just because I did not let you sleep with me a couple of days ago?" Hearing that, the corner of Luo Binghe's mouth twitched. Although Shen Qingkai was seething with anger, he reached out and touched Luo Binghe's forehead. He muttered, "Feels a little feverish. Are you feeling dizzy?" Suddenly, Ning Yingying's voice rang out from beyond the abode. "Lu Shishu, you can't go in. Shizun is not available now." Ning Yingying usually spoke in a quiet and sweet voice, to the point that sometimes a person had to be near her to hear her clearly. Making such a din was out of character for her. It was clear that she was trying to warn Shen Qingkai who was inside the house. He jumped off the bed immediately. As soon as he drew the curtain, the wooden door was slammed open. Lu Qingge took 3 steps into the room, carrying his sword on his back. With one hand behind his back, Shen Qingkai turned around and greeted with a raise of his eyebrows. "Lu Shidi, I hope all is well with you." Lu Qingge went straight to the point. "There's a rule on Qingqiang Mountain. Luo Binghe is not allowed here." Shen Qingkai said, "I have never heard of this rule." Lu Qingge replied, "It's a new rule." Ming Fan poked his head out and chimed in. "It's true, Shizun. There really is such a rule in Qingqiang Mountain. It's just that Zhangman Shivo has not yet engraved it onto the stone of regulations. Everyone knows about it though." Shen Qingkai rebuked him, "Shut up. Don't think I don't know that it was you who called Lu Qingge here." This boy had admired Bai Zhan Peak for such a long time that he simply had to report everything to Lu Qingge. He was truly a spy in Qingjing Peak. It was understandable for many of the youngsters to admire Bai Zhan Peak, but it was really disgraceful to side with outsiders and snitch on your own people on the sly. "I'll deal with you later." After being reprimanded, Ming Fan shrank back and retreated in dejection. Ning Yingying was standing in apprehension at the entrance. She was still not appeased and stepped on Ming Fan's foot with all her might, muttering under her breath and blaming him for ruining matters. As soon as both of them withdrew from the room, Lu Qingge immediately lifted the bed curtain. Luo Binghe was in a semi-sitting position on the bed. There was a glint of hostility in his gaze, like a wounded young wild leopard. He stared at Lu Qingge with a murderous look on his face. His eyes were sharp and frosty like freezing knives, venomous and searing like poisonous flames. His fist was clenched, ready to launch a critical blow any time. Shen Qingkai hurriedly stepped in between them. Pressing one leg atop the bed, he shielded Luo Binghe and said, "Shidi, don't do this." Lu Qingge was perplexed. Why is he wounded? Shen Qingkai really wanted to bow to him. He sighed. "I wouldn't have brought him back if he wasn't hurt. Lu Shidi, please just turn a blind eye to this and don't chase him away." Lu Qingge asked, "Since he's hurt, why doesn't he just remain in the demon realm?" It was precisely because he got hurt in the demon realm. Shen Qingshu said, "We had a situation." Lu Qingge probed, "Did those demons revolt?" Shen Qingshu looked at Luo Binghe from the corner of his eyes. He did not know if it was appropriate to reveal the state of affairs of the demon realm, thus, he simply gave a vague answer, "Perhaps." Lu Qingge said, "He should clean up his own mess. Kengqiang Mountain has your back, but not his." Luo Binghe suddenly let out a cold laugh, which aggravated a wound near his chest. He gritted his teeth to endure the pain. Upon hearing how much agony he was in, Shen Qingshu suddenly felt a wave of confidence well up in him. He said with a severe countenance, "Lu Shidi, do not forget that this is Qingjing Peak." Of course, it was the Peak Lord of Qingjing Peak who had the final say on whether someone was allowed to remain on his peak. Lu Qingge hated that he had no way to dispute this, so he said with a cold expression, "Fine, protect him all you want." After throwing this sentence out, he stomped out of the door. Less than 2 seconds later, he stomped back in and flung an object into Shen Qingshu's arms. Shen Qingshu caught hold of it and looked at it. To his surprise, it was his folding fan. The folding fan he had lost during the battle at Luo River. It was Lu Qingge who found it every single time. It was evident that there was an affinity between Lu Qingge and this fan. He might just as well gift it to him. He gave a dry cough and said courteously, "I always have to trouble you every time." With a sweep of his sleeves, Lu Qingge left. Luo Binghe's voice rang out from behind Shen Qingshu. His voice was hoarse. "Lu Qingge." There was a tinge of real uncertainty behind the question. Shen Qingshu said, "Don't worry about it. That's just the way he is. He will just shout twice and leave once he's done shouting." Luo Binghe narrowed his eyes, a thoughtful expression gradually emerging on his face. Shen Qingshu set the folding fan down on the table and comforted him. "Don't be afraid. Since this master has already put in a word for you, he will not come and make things difficult for you for the time being. If the disciples of Bai Zhan Peak gang up on you again, just fight back. As long as you don't kill them, there's no need to give in to them. You can consider it as fighting for the honor of Qingjing Peak." The more Luo Binghe listened, the more bizarre the gleam in his eyes became. He tentatively called out, "Shizun." Shen Qingshu tilted his head and replied, His tone and expression were all incredibly tender and accommodating, as if he would accede to his every request. Luo Binghe shifted his gaze away and the corners of his mouth curled up. "It's nothing. I only wanted to try calling you." Shen Qingshu was well aware that this child had a habit of incessantly calling out for his Shizun. He stroked the back of Luo Binghe's head and said, "Go to sleep. Whatever issues there are in the demon realm, they can wait until you're fully healed." Luo Binghe nodded his head almost imperceptibly. Seeing this, Shen Qingshu leaned over, pulled out the pillow behind Luo Binghe, and supported him into a lying position. Before that, he carefully untied his hairband so it would not press against his head while he was sleeping. After this, Shen Qingshu blew out the lamp, took off his outer robe with a rustling sound and got onto the bed. He embraced Luo Binghe and said, "Go to sleep. This master will help you maneuver your internal qi." Now that he had hugged him and slept with him, whatever little tantrum he had earlier should have dissipated, shouldn't it? Shen Qingshu closed his eyes and adjusted the spiritual energy in his entire body to its most placid state. Like the tide water at dusk, it tenderly scoured through Luo Binghe's spiritual pulse. A pair of clear eyes glinted with a cold light in the darkness. It remained open for a very long time, staring fixedly at a peacefully sleeping Shen Qingshu. Shen Qingshu's long hair was strewn all over his arms and in between his fingers. Luo Binghe grabbed a wisp of black hair and slowly tightened his grip on it, silently mouthing and reiterating his name over and over again. "Shen Qingshu! Shen Qingshu!" The corners of his lips suddenly curved into an odd, menacing smile. The muted smile spread wider on Luo Binghe's face. It was as if he had discovered something extremely interesting. His eyes shone with a touch of near brutal excitement. That night, Shen Qingkai's dream was convoluted and endless. End chapter. The Scum Villain Self-Saving System. Extra chapter. The Ultimate Showdown between Bing-Mei and Bing-Gur, Part 2. The next morning, the first person to open his eyes was Luo Binghe. His pale face had regained some color and he looked much better than the night before. On the contrary, Shen Qingkai, who was very spirited before he slept, had woken up in a state of grogginess, still hugging Luo Binghe, and was the one who looked exhausted. Shen Qingkai had been sharing his spiritual energy to Luo Binghe the whole night, never stopping until he eventually fell asleep in a daze. Luo Binghe's eyelashes slowly fluttered open. He gazed at Shen Qingkai with a complicated expression for a moment before he extended his hand to move Shen Qingkai's arm away. His action startled Shen Qingkai awake, and Luo Binghe took the chance to get out of bed. Shen Qingkai was puzzled. Luo Binghe would not budge no matter how he tried to kick him off previously, but today, he actually took the initiative to get up. He pinched the bridge of his nose and frowned. "Why are you up so early in the morning? To make breakfast? No need to do it today." He noticed that Luo Binghe was only wearing a thin, inner shirt with his collars opened. The crisscrossed wounds had started to mend, leaving behind only faint traces. Shen Qingkai reckoned that he would be completely healed by the end of the day. However, a small patch of his chest was still exposed to the elements. The robe he wore last night was no longer wearable, so Shen Qingkai prompted him, "Your old clothes are still in the side room." Ying Ying and the rest left them the way they were. Luo Binghe sidestepped to the dividing screen and made his way to the side room. His own little room came into view, completed with desks, chairs, beds, and cabinets made of bamboo. Everything was spotless. There was even a small desk at the head of his bed. The scrolls were arranged in perfect order, and brushes of various colors were organized by color and length. He opened the cupboard door and saw a neat stack of white clothes inside. There was also a variety of fine-grade jade pendants hanging at the top. During the time Luo Binghe was in the side room, Shen Qingkai slowly sat up from the bed. He rubbed his temples as he swept his gaze around to search for his boots. He had slept so badly last night that he was really annoyed now. He was always in a dream. Dreaming and dreaming and dreaming and dreaming. Even the humiliating black history of going to Xiāng City to eliminate the Skinner demon had appeared in his dreams. And oh, he even dreamed of dreaming in his dreams. Everything from the Immortal Alliance Conference to Jinlan City to Huayu City to the Holy Mausoleum all flashed by in his dreams like a revolving lantern. There were even dreams of the moments where he was bashed up, where he vomited blood, where grasses grew over his body. His brain was going to explode after having so many dreams in a night. It had to be because he was sharing his spiritual energy to Luo Binghe while sleeping. If his mind was unstable, the person sleeping near him would also suffer. By this time, Luo Binghe was done dressing up and walked out of the side room. Shen Qingkai still had not found his boots, so he simply gave up. He beckoned Luo Binghe over, and when the latter walked over to the side of the bed, Shen Qingkai moved to pull him down. Luo Binghe did not move but asked with a frown, "What are you doing?" Shen Qingkai took out a hair ribbon and a wooden comb from under the pillow and replied, "What do you think I'm doing?" Only then did Luo Binghe obediently seated himself down in front of Shen Qingkai, looking around and sizing up the bamboo dwelling. Shen Qingkai leisurely asked as he combed Luo Binghe's hair, "What are you looking at?" Luo Binghe's eyes were still sharp and cool, but his tone softened as he said, "I was always in a hurry every time I returned to Qingjing Peak these past few years, so I never had the chance to take a good look." Shen Qingkai held the ribbon in his mouth for a brief moment as he stealthily and mischievously tied a little braid for him. He said, "Then look all you want these days. I'll make a trip to Baijian Peak later and get Lu Qingge to keep a tighter rein on his disciples. There is absolutely no reason for Qingjing Peak's disciples to be chased around and got clobbered by Baijian Peak." After a momentary pause, Luo Binghe slowly turned his head back. He smiled at Shen Qianqiu and sweetly called out to him, "Shizun." Shizun. It was as if he had never tried calling Shen Qianqiu in such a way. He called out several times in a row and got a response every time. The more he called, the more addicted he became. Until Shen Qianqiu eventually could not endure it and grabbed his folding fan to smack the back of Luo Binghe's head. "What are you calling me for? Just call once. Talk properly." Having received a blow on the back of his head, Luo Binghe's face darkened, but he quickly composed himself. He smiled vaguely and shifted his gaze aside, asking, "Did Shizun sleep badly last night? How can I sleep well when I'm holding you in my arms?" Shen Qianqiu replied in a light tone. "Just some dreams of the past." Luo Binghe said, "Then, how about I hug you to sleep the next time?" Such words came so easily to him. Shen Qianqiu completed his task and patted Luo Binghe's head before he pushed him out of bed. "Go! Go!" Shen Qianqiu went to Baizhan Peak as promised. He was a familiar face there and knew his way around, so he did not even need a visitation card to send notice of his visit. He tidied his appearance and left after taking a couple of mouthfuls of the congee that Ming Fan had served up. Luo Binghe was left behind in the bamboo house with the instruction to obediently wait for this master's return. But how would he be really willing to comply and wait? The moment he opened the door, he saw a petite figure in orange skipping towards him. Luo Binghe took a closer look, then beamed and called out, "Ying Ying." Who would have expected Ning Ying Ying to shiver and turn pale with fright? "Ah Luo! What's wrong with you? Did you hurt your head? Why did you call me like that? What in the world is Ying Ying, that's so scary?" Luo Binghe, ... Ning Ying Ying's face was still full of horror. "Why aren't you calling me Ning Shija?" "Luo Binghe, Ning Shija." This Shija was said through clenched teeth, yet Ning Ying Ying heaved a sigh of relief. Patting her bosom, she lectured him. "This is how it should be. It's so unlike you to suddenly change the way you address me. Shizun may dote on you, but you must always be careful to show and pay respect to your seniors. Only then will we retain the dignity as Qingjing Peak's disciples and honor the teachings of Shizun." The veins stood out of Luo Binghe's head as he listened. Losing his patience, he cut her off. "I have something to ask you." A look of understanding came over Ning Ying Ying's face. With a wave of her hand, she solemnly handed the duster and broom over into Luo Binghe's hands. She said, "Shija knows. Here." Luo Binghe, ... Ning Ying Ying said with sincerity, "Ah Luo, please don't mind me. I'm aware that you have always wanted to tidy up Shizun's abode on your own. However, you and Shizun have been gone for so many days, so Da Shixing and I could only stand in for you first. But since you are back, I'll leave the tasks to you. Shija will not fight with you for these duties. Shija knows this much." "The hell you know?" Luo Binghe turned around and made his way to Xianqiu Peak. The disciples of Xianqiu Peak had always welcomed him regardless of where they were. In the past, Shen Qianqiu had often ordered Luo Binghe about and sent him on numerous errands here. He was thus a regular face at Xianqiu Peak. From time to time, he would go over to deliver a message, request someone's presence, or borrow something. The male disciples from the other peaks would more or less sneak around whenever they came to Xianqiu Peak. They would loiter here and there until they peeked into the beautiful fairies' chambers and even the bathhouse. But of course, they did not even make it to the bathhouse before they were beeped to death by the beautiful fairies' flustered array of swords. Only Luo Binghe would treat them with due respect and maintain his distance from them whenever he came to their peak, so he came to be quite highly regarded among those in Xianqiu Peak. As such, he was given access and allowed to wait in the inner hall of Xianqiu Peak. A veiled Minjian bowed in courtesy to him, greeting, "Luo Shixing." Before Luo Binghe could speak, Lu Minjian nodded to him and said, "Is Luo Shixing here under the orders of Shen Shivo to invite Shizun over? Please wait here for a moment." I will come back after I have finished making arrangements for these comrades from Tianyi Monastery. The 3 comrades she was talking about were exactly those 3 pretty Taoist nuns. They were circling around Lu Mingjian, with their delicate, hourglass bodies wrapped in aquamarine robes. 3 pairs of bright eyes stared at Luo Binghe. One moment, they would whisper among themselves, and the next moment, they would stamp their feet coquettishly with flushed cheeks. They were like 3 brilliant blue flowers revolving around a pure, upright lotus, fluttering in the wind, giggling and horsing around as they left while huddled together. Luo Binghe waited patiently for Lu Mingjian to return. After standing for a while, he suddenly noticed a corner of a book peeking out from beneath a messy pile on scrolls on the desk. It was obviously shoved underneath in haste. Even Lu Mingjian had something to hide. He casually pulled out the hidden booklet and swept a quick glance at it. He found the cover gaudy, and the 3 characters of the title were even more contorted than the character before it. He frowned, but when he saw the author signing off as Lu Sumian Hua, he smiled and flipped open the booklet. /Note: Lu Sumian Hua, literally means sleeping flower among willow, as in willow constellation. The Lu is the same Lu as in Lu Mingjian. The entire name, Lu Sumian Hua, is an anagram of Mian Hua So Lu, which means to go whoring. Laughing face, ******. When Shen Qingkai returned after he was done having a heart-to-heart talk over a cup of tea at Bai Zhan Peak, Luo Binghe was already waiting for him in the bamboo dwelling. As soon as he stepped through the door, he felt 2 burning and scalding lines of sight directed at him. Shen Qingkai, ... Why did he suddenly felt afraid to close the door? Luo Binghe was reclining against the bed and said with a smile, "What's wrong? Why isn't Shizun coming over?" His tone was still soft with an undertone of grievance, but his gaze told a different story. He was sizing Shen Qingkai up as if he had never seen the latter before. It was as if he was going to skin him alive with his gaze. Shen Qingkai had a beautiful complexion, his shoulders were neither wide nor thick, and he had a slender waist and long legs. Under the layers upon layers of green clothes that were the attire of Qingjing Peak, he cut a graceful figure, poised and charming. That's right. He's very charming. Shen Qingkai backhandedly closed the door of the bamboo house. He had yet to reach within 5 steps of Luo Binghe when he felt himself being pulled right into Luo Binghe's arms. The grip around his waist tightened. Luo Binghe's hands slipped to the sides of his waist, stroking and kneading intermittently. Hand. Hand. Thank you. Hand. Your hand. Shen Qingkai backhandedly grasped Luo Binghe's paws. Taking advantage of the momentum, Luo Binghe twisted him around and Shen Qingkai somehow ended up sitting on Luo Binghe's thighs with his legs spread wide open. He was stuck. The next moment, Luo Binghe felt down his neck and pushed down on it, locking Shen Qingkai's lips again with his. He did not dare to move. WTF, he really did not dare to move in this position. Actually, both of them had already done more explicit acts than this, but the last time was a special case as a catastrophe was imminent, so Shen Qingkai had cast aside his bashfulness and reservations. Luo Binghe had been rather close to him in the past half-month they had spent in the demon realm, but whether it was because of shyness or some other reason, he had done nothing out of line. This timing, this location, this entire situation was a totally different matter. The sun had yet to set. Was it really good to engage in such lascivious activities during the day? Could it be that this child could no longer hold back his desire? Shen Qingkai was not accustomed to clinging this close to people when they were still wide awake. But Luo Binghe was like a fragile porcelain doll that would shatter at a touch. He definitely could not take any more blows. Thus, Shen Qingkai responded to him and parted his lips slowly. Oddly enough, his body had always felt the same even after the long period of time Shen Qingkai had been using it. It was frigid and rigid all over from head to toe, top to bottom. There was no spot that could not be touched. It would not itch no matter where it was tickled, and there also did not seem to be any sensitive spot. But now that Luo Binghe was lightly and slowly touching him all over, Shen Qingqiu actually ached with desire so much that it was hard to bear. Why was he so experienced? Why? He was obviously a virgin? Why? Just one time and he self-taught himself this much? Why? Is this fair? I want to complain. I want to scream. Why? At times, Luo Binghe nibbled lightly on his lips, at other times, he gnawed heavily on it. The tip of Luo Binghe's tongue danced in his mouth, arousing him. Shen Qingqiu could not keep up with his rhythm and started to gasp for breath, but the moment he shifted his head, he would be steered back, and Luo Binghe would deepen the kiss. Unable to catch his breath, Shen Qingqiu frowned and closed his eyes. Thus, he could not see the malice flashing through Luo Binghe's eyes. Shen Qingqiu could hardly maintain his balance on Luo Binghe's thighs, and so he subconsciously reached out to grab hold of Luo Binghe's collar. He missed. Instead, he touched the bare skin of Luo Binghe's chest. His smooth, unblemished skin. In that very instant, Shen Qingqiu's mind cleared. With a sudden burst of force in his palm, he aimed a critical hit at Luo Binghe's chest. Luo Binghe took the blow face on but remained unmoved. He gave a cold laugh and grabbed Shen Qingqiu's right wrist with one hand while his other hand continued to press down on his neck. Holding Shen Qingqiu, he deftly turned over and rolled onto the bed with himself on top. With a smile on his face, he looked down at Shen Qingqiu and asked, "What's the matter, Shizun? Don't you love me very much? Why don't you give yourself to me? Screw this man!" Shen Qingqiu swore at him, "Scram!" Luo Binghe progressed from kissing him to tearing at his lips. The metallic taste of blood instantly saturated Shen Qingqiu's mouth. He formed a spell with his left hand and summoned Qiuya, which was on the desk. Luo Binghe's movements were slightly sluggish and Shen Qingqiu took the chance to raise his leg and gave him a kick on the chest. Before he could rise, he felt a grip on his ankle and looked back. Luo Binghe's hand was grasping his ankle. In one bold move, he hauled Shen Qingqiu backward beneath his body again. Immediately right after, he righted Shen Qingqiu's body, grasping his calf and bending it up to his chest, pinning him down. The whole range of actions was completed in one go. Shen Qingqiu snapped, "Where is he?" Luo Binghe crooked his head and said, "Who are you asking about? If you mean me, then am I not here?" Shen Qingqiu suddenly relaxed his tone and asked, "How did you get here?" Luo Binghe played with his hair and said, "Compared to that, what I want to know is how did Shizun find out? WTF? Please, those scars on Luo Binghe's palm and chest, he was the one who caused them back then." Shen Qingqiu replied, "Do you really want to know?" Luo Binghe lowered and pressed his body down on Shen Qingqiu and said in a frosty yet provocative tone, "Never mind if you don't want to tell me. We have plenty of time to figure it out slowly." Shen Qingqiu said, "Then how about you turn around and see for yourself?" The arch on Luo Binghe's lips suddenly froze. Alarmed, he warily turned back. In the semi-darkness, a face that mirrored him closed in. A face that was so frosty like ice that it was bone-chilling. Yet, those pair of eyes were like soul fire, raging and burning crimson red. End chapter. The Scum Villain Self-Saving System. Extra Chapter. The Ultimate Showdown between Bing-Mei and Bing-Gur, Part 3. Two identical people with identical features faced off in the bamboo house. There was no difference between them other than that one of them was clad in white and the other in black. A sword was hanging at the waist of the Luo Binghe in black and it was covered with layers upon layers of talismans. The intimidating Shinmo of the past was now swaddled in such a crude, unsightly way with not even a wisp of demonic energy could seep through it. Luo Binghe bellowed in a hoarse voice. "Get off him!" A critical strike followed right after this outburst of fury. The Luo Binghe in white who was wedged in between Shen Qingqiu's legs returned the blow without hesitation. The two blows neutralized each other and disintegrated in midair with a resounding noise. Looking as if his enjoyment had been dampened, he scornfully said, "Instead of returning earlier or later, you just had to return right at this moment." Before he could finish his words, Shen Qingqiu hooked his index and middle finger, and Xiuye, which had been nailed into the wall after it had missed its target, gave a slight quiver and flew right into his hands. Shen Qingqiu grabbed hold of it and immediately swung his arm down in a slash. Flanked on both sides, Luo Binghe finally could not maintain his provocative posture. He somersaulted off the bed, but before leaving, he did not forget to pinch Shen Qingqiu's waist for the last time. He deftly landed on the other end of the bamboo house and put on a sorrowful act. "Shizun is so brutal. Doesn't your heart ache for this disciple? Screw you. Who is your Shizun?" This man was Zhongdian's ultimate stallion protagonist of Proud Immortal Demon's Way, the original one. He was released into this world before when the system's punishment program went online. He was the man whom Zhongdian's readers worshipped like a god, and whom everyone referred to as Bing-Gur. Shen Qingqiu had never expected the man himself to appear in the punishment program, even more so in this world with an actual body. From the looks of it, the so-called system's punishment did not release a simulated character. Instead, it had directly dragged Bing-Gur over from the original, parallel universe. Although he had vaguely sensed something was wrong since yesterday, he did not really give much thought to it because young maiden Luo had always been playing difficult and acting like a pampered child all along. Moreover, Shen Qingqiu himself was only concerned about and focused on treating Luo Binghe's injuries then. The real Luo Binghe had scars that Shen Qingqiu had left on his palm and chest. That child had treated those scars as treasures and retained them on his body as he had been unwilling to heal them, so how could Shen Qingqiu get to touch smooth, unblemished skin? At the end of the day, they were still unfamiliar with each other's bodies, that was why it took him a while to realize it. Fortunately, the horses were reined in before they fell over the precipice of the cliff. What a close shave, he nearly failed to preserve his chastity. If that was the case, then the leave that Luo Binghe had exclaimed yesterday when they had met in the inner hall of the underground chamber could be easily explained. It did not mean "flee quickly, I don't want to implicate you," but was instead "you damned scum, scram." The Luo Binghe in black with a sword hanging at his waist pounced on Shen Qingqiu and hastily asked, "Shizun, has this bastard done anything to you?" Aren't you scolding yourself by calling him a bastard?" Even though Shen Qingqiu was roasting him, Shen Qingqiu was still very comforted to see this Luo Binghe clinging on to him with a face full of anxiety. This was how it should be. He cleared his throat and made sure that his attire was not in disarray, nor was his appearance disheveled before he spoke. "This master is fine." He suddenly recalled that Luo Binghe was covered all over in wounds yesterday, with his skin and flesh torn, and this one was not likely to emerge unscathed as well. Thus, he hurriedly asked, "How about you? Are you hurt?" Luo Binghe nodded his head and said, "I'm all right now." Shen Qingqiu grabbed his wrist and turned it over. There was that white scar on the palm of his hand. His heart stirred. What is going on? Where have you been for the past 2 days? Why is he here? Luo Binghe shook his head and said, "This disciple does not know. The day before yesterday, when I went into seclusion in the inner hall of the underground palace, the remnants of Shinmo suddenly surged with a purple light and this person appeared with another Shinmo in his hand. I exchanged blows with him, but in a moment of carelessness, I fell through the rift that was slashed open by Shinmo. I only managed to snatch the sword away before the rift closed up. I couldn't find Shizun when I returned, so I came all the way to Kengqiang Mountain." So, Luo Binghe was in the original Proud Immortal Demon Way universe for the past 2 days? Shinmo's space-cutting slash turned out to have already defied the laws of nature to this extent, it could even slash an opening to the entrance to a parallel universe. This was not something that could be merely explained off as a bug. As a true blue homo who was suddenly thrown amidst a harem of 3,000 beauties, this child must have really been shaken to the core. Shen Qingkaihu's heart could not help but surge with tenderness. Suddenly, someone piped up coldly. "Excuse me, but I'm still here. Can you guys not hang me out here to dry?" The original Luo Binghe was used to being the center of attention. He was inexplicably irritated when he saw these two men pouncing on each other the moment they met and totally disregarding his existence as they went on about being awfully annoying and sickening sweet. He secretly exerted force on his foot and soundlessly crushed several blue stones into fine powder. Luo Binghe shielded Shen Qingkaihu and said in an imposing tone, "What were you doing just now?" Luo Binghe replied flippantly, "Just fooling around." Shen Qingkaihu was stunned. "Screwing who? Me? Bing-Gur, you, open your arms to everyone. Regardless whether it's man or woman, meat or fish, you'll eat them as long as they throw themselves at you. Or was it because none of the women in your original harem who was here had been won over and you couldn't hold back your urges anymore?" Bing-Gur tsked and scorned, "Who asked you to be so useless that you don't even have a woman?" Shen Qingkaihu was rendered speechless by Bing-Gur's yardstick for being useless. But Luo Binghe's attention was elsewhere. He was so furious that his pupils looked as if they would shed fresh blood. He said in a low voice, "How dare you humiliate Shizun this way?" The eyes of the other Luo Binghe suddenly became red as well. He met his glare head-on and sneered. "It's not just him I'm going to humiliate. Look at how worthless you are. You are Luo Binghe, but you are so embarrassing to be sticking around Shen Qingkaihu, this kind of dishonorable and shameless scum, every day." He had yet to finish when Luo Binghe erupted with fury. Black air permeated the bamboo house, making it so opaque that they could barely see their hands in front of them, but neither of them backed down. Suddenly, a white light penetrated the darkness from above them. It turned out that the wooden ceiling of the bamboo house had been innocently implicated. They had blasted a big hole through it while they were throwing blows at each other. Luo Binghe looked up. All at once, his face became darker than the demonic energy he was flinging out. Shen Qingkaihu more or less had the same expression. WTF would he say when Nding Peak came to repair it? Luo Binghe was unwilling to let the bamboo house be destroyed, so he leaped out of the door and shouted, "Come out!" The original one snorted. "Just what I wanted. This meager, run-down hut is too cramped and restrictive." Two figures in black and white vanished in a flash. Shen Qingkaihu was considering calling over those people from Baizhan Peak. But just as he was wondering if they would indiscriminately thrash both Luo Binghe to death, Ming Fan and Ning Yingying rushed over with a group of disciples. He reckoned that they were in the midst of their evening studies when they heard a weird commotion and came running over, still carrying their gukins and books. Right at once, Shen Qingkaihu said, "Stop." The crowd of disciples immediately stood still. Ming Fan asked, "Shizun, what's going on here?" Shen Qingkaihu cut him off. "Fall in." The disciples of Qingjing Peak immediately and reflexively fell in. Shen Qingkaihu added, "Go down and run around Qingjing Peak. Do 30 laps. If he were to drive them away directly, this bunch of babies would definitely be unwilling and would even insist on staying to help out and add to the mess. He might as well send them away first." On receiving such a direct command, the disciples all looked at each other. "Well, since Shizun told us to run, then let's just run." A group of youths and young maidens in green then ran towards the bottom of Qingjing Peak, following after one another in a row like a train. Shen Qingkaihu breathed a sigh of relief on seeing that they had been diverted, then he turned back and quickly leaped into the bamboo woods at the back of the mountain. The original could completely control Shin Mo, but not the one he raised. This one was easily influenced and countered by Shin Mo, perhaps because his mind was unstable, or because he had too many distractions. Because of this, he had not dared to use Shin Mo rashly and had taken the initiative to seal Shin Mo with spells so as to exercise caution and restraint. It was like having a golden finger but not daring to use it, holding a golden rice bowl but unable to beg for food. Therefore, their swords were still sheathed, and it looked as if both of them were engaged in hand-to-hand combat instead. But the destructive power of their combat was too high. Dozens of deep pits had been gouged into the ground, bamboo groves had toppled over, fallen leaves were dancing in the wind, birds took to the sky with alarmed cries. At this rate, Qingjing Peak would be reduced to 2 Ding Peak. Note, 2 Ding Peak means bald peak / Shen Qingkai waited for an opening before he controlled Qiuya and sent it whizzing towards the original Luo Binghe. Silver light streaked across long, narrow eyes. Luo Binghe tilted his head and flicked the blade away with a finger. Looking askew at Shen Qingkai, he asked, "We are clearly the same person. Shizun, why are you helping him to hurt me? Who the hell is the same as you?" The Luo Binghe he raised was the one whom the system had transferred to the BL channel of Lu Dingding Literature City after Shen Qingkai intervened in the plot. He was Maiden Luo Gon Bunkers, aka Bing-Mei. He's absolutely different from you, a domineering rascal whose entire brain is full of obscene thoughts, and Zongdian's ultimate stallion male lead who leveled up by wiping out low IQ villains and supporting characters. Shen Qingkai kept his silence and looked at Luo Binghe in the eyes. Without further words, they attacked the original Luo Binghe together. Originally, the two Luo Binghe were more or less evenly matched in power and strength. Most of the wounds on the original Luo Binghe's body were likely caused by Luo Binghe. Now that Shen Qingkai had joined the fray, the scales began to tip in their favor. Spiritual energy and dark aura surged and intertwined with each other amidst the smooth and swift snow-white flashes of their swords. Their cooperation was flawless. Luo Binghe narrowly dodged several waves of attacks. He squinted his eyes slightly as if his fury was ignited, but his face did not betray much of his rage except for the pursing of his lips. He suddenly said, "His technique is so bad, what's so good about him?" This line was thrown out so suddenly that Shen Qingkai's hand shook. "Bear with it, continue to fight. Who would know that Bing-Gur would not hold back? Shizun, you have first-hand experience of my prowess. We are both the same person in any case, why don't you come with me? I'll definitely make you happier than if you were to remain with him." Shen Qingkai retorted, "Shut up." Luo Binghe mumbled, "First-hand experience." Shen Qingkai said, "Concentrate on the fight." Luo Binghe asked, "What does he mean by first-hand experience? What is the meaning of happier than if you were to remain with me?" Luo Binghe said ambiguously, "Or perhaps Shizun actually likes being hurt. If that's the case, this disciple can also guarantee your satisfaction." Luo Binghe's face contorted in a flash. He unconsciously put his hand on Shin Mo. Shen Qingkai hurriedly shouted, "Don't pull it out." Luo Binghe regained his senses and immediately withdrew his hand, but the red in his pupils intensified and his breathing grew rapidly. Gnashing his teeth, he launched an assault and initiated close combat. When force meets force, and both had equal strength and skills, the end result would be the same. Shen Qingkai heard the sound of dull cracks. The limbs of the two Luo Binghe hung down limply, one with a broken left hand and one with a broken right arm. Even their reactions right after were the same, they used their legs once their arms broke. So, there were two more cracks, and this time, it was both their legs that got broken. Shen Qingkai could bear it no longer. "That's enough. Are you trying to die together with these kinds of moves?" Luo Binghe's face suddenly softened as he gazed at Shen Qingkai. "Shizun, do you blame me for hurting you the last time?" The other widened his eyes and asked, "Shizun, have you met him before?" If an encounter in the system counted as a meeting, then yes. Shen Qingkai was unwilling to elaborate and simply said, "Just a chance encounter." Bing-Gur was really good at seizing every opportunity available to him. He put on an aggrieved look and said, "It was my fault the last time." This disciple acknowledges his mistake. But wasn't Shizun getting a kick out of it just now? "I'm also your disciple, how could you have the heart to treat me like this? What a performance! Such a fake! Continue to put on a show. You truly live up to the reputation of the double-faced and hypocritical Bing-Gur who can smile in agreement while cussing 1,000 times in your heart." As expected, a blackened protagonist was crafty and treacherous. He was deliberately messing with Luo Binghei's mind. Naturally, Shen Qingkai would not let him succeed. He rebuffed him with righteous indignation and without hesitation, "I didn't get the slightest kick out of it." As soon as he said that, he felt an intense and searing numbness springing up in his lower abdomen. There was no way to ignore or suppress it. It was as if there were millions of ants stickily crawling inside his body. The corners of the mouth of Luo Binghei curved up in a smile, and he asked with sinister delight, "Can you still say what you don't really mean now? The demonic blood. How could he have forgotten? As long as he was Luo Binghei, he could manipulate the blood parasites in Shen Qingkai's body. Out of the two Luo Binghei here, one was inciting the blood parasites while the other was suppressing it. This was a battle of strength. The end result was the intermittent bursts of numbness and alternating spells of sweltering heat that rapidly spread from his abdomen throughout his entire body, even to his fingertips. Shen Qingkai gasped for breath and his vision blurred as the hand that was grasping his sword started to waver. The moment Luo Binghei faltered, the Shinmo sword on his waist was wrested away from him. There was a smug smile on the original Luo Binghei's face, with an excitement that bordered on bloodthirstiness. Just as he gripped the hilt of the sword and was about to draw it out of its sheath, Shen Qingkai suddenly said coldly, "Don't rejoice yet. Look above you." At the moment, there were only rustling bamboo branches and leaves swaying in the wind above the heads of the three men. Luo Binghei could sense that there was no threat above them even without looking up. He smiled lightly. "Aren't you looking down on me by using this kind of childish trick to try and hoodwink this disciple?" "Not looking." "Fine, you asked for it." Shen Qingkai formed a seal with his left hand. There was a definite snap of his fingers as his eyes narrowed in concentration. Luo Binghei was about to speak when a piece of leaf swept right before his eyes. His smile froze. A streak of blood slowly rolled down his cheek. More bamboo leaves started to fall in all directions. All of a sudden, the leaves which had been leisurely drifting downwards suddenly sped up and shot right at him, each was like a sharp blade in the eastern wind. Plucked leaves, flying flowers, enhanced version, 1,000 leaves, 10,000 flowers. Luo Binghei wielded a hand to destroy the clusters of leaf blades that were directed at him. The entire bamboo woods were full of airborne leaves like fairies scattering blossoms, and each of them was chasing after him like grim reapers hunting down souls. The leaves seemed gentle on the surface, but it could scrape through meat and bone upon contact. He might be able to evade a piece or two, but with hundreds and thousands of them all over the sky, it was hard for him not to get flustered. Furthermore, he had a broken arm and a broken leg earlier on during the scuffle, and his movements were thus limited. Shen Qingkai was about to move in when he saw a black figure beating him to it and striking Luo Binghei's chest with his still intact palm. Right at the moment, he saw a look of incredulity on that familiar face. Shen Qingkai actually did not have the heart to bring himself to continue. Luo Binghei took 2 steps back, and swallowed as if he was swallowing a mouthful of blood. He sneered and said, "That's quite some rapport. Not bad, I guess." Although he was mocking them, his uninjured hand was tightly clenched into a fist with the veins on the back of his hand appearing and disappearing intermittently. Ever since he had become an adult, there had never been anyone who could push him into the corner like this. Being on the losing end reminded him of the days when he had been humiliated and trampled all over. The hot tea poured on his head, the firewood shed that could not keep out the wind, the never-ending physical and verbal abuses, the scorching afternoon kneeling that lasted late into the night, the lack of filling meals. Those days were all inextricably connected to that face right in front of his very eyes now. But now, the owner of this face was standing beside the person who looked exactly like him, holding that broken arm in his hands, not daring to touch it or let it go. As if he himself could intimately feel that pain, he frowned and asked, "Why do you have to attack him head-on? You kept fighting even though you knew it was broken. Don't act so rashly the next time." Although it sounds like a rebuke, the voice was miffed, anxious and concerned. Even a fool could tell. The cold wind cut through the woods as leaves rustled and drifted down. He could not take it lying down. This was unfair. The image of those two men standing together was so dazzling that his eyes hurt and the rims of his eyes burned. They were obviously both Luo Bing-He. On what grounds would the other one get to encounter this kind of Shen Qingshu, and yet he himself had to encounter the narrow-minded, jealous, and shameless version? On what grounds? The carefully preserved articles of clothing and objects, the refreshing and tidy side room, the tender, doting and indulgent whispers. He clearly only wanted to humiliate them. He clearly disdained the nauseating relationship between both of them. And yet, he could not help but blurt out to Shen Qingshu, "Come with me." On hearing those 3 words, Luo Bing-He laughed coldly and said, "What did you say?" His knuckles cracked. He actually looked like he wanted to kill. Although Shen Qingshu approved of the act of dishing out the final blow to finish off an opponent long live last hit, but, what was up with making Luo Bing-He kill Luo Bing-He? Let Shen Qingshu kill him instead? That was even more impossible. Furthermore, he did not know if the protagonist's golden halo would also work on the original Luo Bing-He. Shen Qingshu pressed 2 of his fingers on Luo Bing-He's shoulder to stop him from being impulsive. While he was having a headache trying to figure out how to deal with it, Luo Bing-He had already made his move. He broke the seal of Shinmo. Amidst the surge of black aura and purple light, and under the wary glances of the 2 men, he opened up a rift in the air in one slash and leaped in. He bit down on his lip hard when he looked back. He could not take this lying down. The rift disappeared with his figure. He left just like that? Bing-Gur, was this easy to dismiss? Shen Qingshu was momentarily stunned before he responded, "Destroy the remnants of Shinmo once we get back. This thing cannot remain in this world. This thing was simply too much of a bug. If they continued to keep it, who knew what kind of plot twist would unfold the next time?" Luo Bing-He nodded his head in silence. Although Luo Bing-He probably did not need his support, Shen Qingshu continued to let him lean against him. They had only taken a few steps when Luo Bing-He asked despondently, "Shizun, is my technique really that bad?" Honestly speaking, it was bad. It was seriously bad. Whether it was kissing, touching, stripping, or rolling between the sheets, he was so bad that he was in a class of his own. As for penetration, there was no basis for comparison, but from the looks of it, he should also receive a fail grade. Of course, Shen Qingshu could not voice it out. Thus he simply glossed it over, "Not really." The dejection on Luo Bing-He's face grew heavier. Shen Qingshu consoled him, "After all, you have little experience. It was by emerging victorious in love and betting hundreds of women that Bing-Gur was such a seasoned veteran." Luo Bing-He lowered his head. From the looks of it, he was considering which corner to emote and grow mushrooms again. This was the look Shen Qingshu could not bear seeing the most, so he coaxed him, "This master will treat your arms and legs first. Then, we can research about it together. How about it?" Luo Bing-He looked up suddenly. "Really?" Shen Qingshu expected this reaction and patted him evenly on the head, "Treat your injuries first." Luo Bing-He nodded. With just 2 cracking sounds, Luo Bing-He had reaffixed his broken arm and leg. Standing up suddenly, he grasped both of Shen Qingshu's arms with both of his now intact hands. His cheeks were flushed red and his eyes were twinkling when he said, "They are okay now. Shizun, so let's go research together." End chapter.